Hello friends, here we'll be discussing the globalization. So see here the globalization impact on the India. What is the concept of globalization? So see, globalization is defined as the rise in the economic integration among the nation. Okay, the term globalization refer to the increasing interconnectedness of the world's economies, then culture, inhabitants, as a result of what? As a result of the cross border trade in the goods and services or in the technology, flow of the investment, flow of the peoples from one nation to other, and apart from that the knowledge transfer. So what do you mean by the globalization? It is a very easy concept. Okay, globalization refer to what? Simply see, globalization, so you can see economic integration among the nation. Okay, means how there is a connection between the nations. Okay, see, name itself you can easily get globalization. You become a global. How become a global? Suppose one person from India go to the USA. Okay, and you can say you have some connection in the USA. That is globalization. Means see, Indian people can do the trade with the USA people. Okay, so basically why globalization happen? Simply due to the increasing interconnectedness between the nations, or the between two culture, or between two economy. Okay, or between two inhabitants. Why? Because of the we are doing the trade, we are doing import export, we are doing technology transfer. There is investment between different country. One resident of the USA can invest in the Indian company. Okay, people can move from one country to other country. Knowledge sharing will be there. So movement of knowledge is also important from one nation to other. We can say transfer of a technology. So due to this factor, there is a interconnection between two country, two economy, or two culture. Basically it is a part of the globalization. Okay, so what is globalization in one word? If you have to say, simply it is the increasing interconnections between the nation. Okay, now globalization is described by the World Trade Organization as the development towards the unrestricted cross border flow of goods and services, capital, and the labor force. So according to World Trade Organization, see, obviously it is the World Trade Organization. So the organization is dealing basically in the trade. Okay, so according to them, simply it is the unrestricted cross border flow of goods and services, capital, and labor force. So they are basically they're describing the globalization as the free trade. There should be unrestricted flow of the capital, or investments, then goods and services, or even labor from one nation to other. Okay, so in this way they can describe the globalization as per their aspect. Okay, now the concept introduced in India, the globalization concept was introduced in India as the new economic policy, as a part of the new economic policy in 1991. So you know what happened in 1991-92? Globalization, liberalization, and privatization. Simply it is called as LPG. Liberalization, privatization, globalization. That reform were adopted, and in the new economic policy 1991-92, India come with the new concept called as the globalization. It is a part of LPG reforms, liberalization, privatization, and the globalization. Okay, now see, in 1980 what happened? The Organization for Economic Cooperation and the Development, called as the OECD. Okay, important term you have to remember here, OECD. Okay, full form remember, it is the Organization for the Economic Cooperation and the Development. It is the Organization for the Economic Cooperation, economic it is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and the Development. Okay, OECD. It is this organization has popularized the term called globalization. So in exam there will be a question, which organization basically popularized the term globalization? So answer will be OECD. Okay, and also remember, in India, how we the concept of globalization how introduced in India by in 1991 in the new economic policy, or you can say in LPG reforms, in the LPG reforms. Okay, now see here the globalization and its advocacy. So we have to allocate the basically globalization. How can say globalization is good for India or good for any country? So see, due to the globalization, increased manufacturing, diversification, economic developments, then higher living standards can be observed. So we are doing advocacy. So we are seeing here what are the positive impact of the globalization. Simply, manufacturing will increase, right, due to technology transfer, due to labor force transfer. Then diversification in the products, economic development will be there, higher living standards will be there, right. This can be observed. Also a cross border investment and the technology transfer brings a job, more employment will be there. Globalization has enhanced social justice also by drawing the attention to the human rights. So see, one country people can observe the go to other country, okay, they can observe there how the human rights are there, so they can demand in the same country. So in this way it has also attention to the human rights also. Okay, now globalization and its impact on the India. So how globalization impacted on the India? The entry and expansion of a foreign investment in the various area propelled the Indian economy's development. Even further, the following in 1991 reforms, the average growth rate of the Indian economy was much higher than the prior decades. So basically what we can say, after 1991 reforms, we adopted the LPG reforms, right, and in that the globalization term was introduced in India. Okay, due to this we are learning here the globalization and its impact on India. So we can say in positive manner, we got increase in the investment. Globalization means basically lot of privatization happened in that reforms, and basically the foreign investor started investing in India, so more capital fund inflow to the India. Okay, now effect of globalization include what? Increased per capita income. Due to the globalization, our per capita income increased, employment also increased, and also there will be more option available for the customer. Okay, due to the globalization, import also increased, so more option for the customer which to buy, local product or the global product. Globalization open up the new options for the agriculture export also. So these are the impact of a globalization on the India. Now see, fair globalization and the need for the policy framework. What do you mean by fair globalization? See, fair globalization, see here, suppose this is the one country and this is the other country, okay, and this country is very much popular for the globalization. Say developed country, for example say USA, okay, and say this is the country, for example say Russia, okay, for example, and this is not that much of open to the globalization. Okay, so this country is having very much clear norms or free norms, so they can send or they can import a lot of things without restrictions. But Russia has some restrictions for the import, okay, but they are having no restriction for the export. Okay, so this company mainly exporting to USA, and USA is mainly importing from the Russia, not exporting to Russia. So there will be not, that is not good for the USA, right? So considering that, what I have to say, there should be a fair globalization. Means what? That we will be discussing. Now see, the importance of the mutual understanding and the dialogue among the government, organizations within and across the borders to promote the social cohesion is the key proposition for the fair globalization. So how fair globalization can happen? Obviously there should be the mutual understanding between the different countries and different governments. Okay, and this is the only key for the fair globalization. Fair globalization creates the opportunity for all while also ensuring the advantages of the globalization are shared equally. Okay, so there should be what are the advantages of globalization, that should be shared equally, otherwise we can say it is not a fair practice. Okay, it must be fair, inclusive, democratically govern and provide opportunity and tangible benefit to all the country and the people. Okay, so that should be the, that means there should be a fair globalization, right? Now globalization in the reverse gear. Okay, so how globalization came into reverse gear, that we will discuss. See, the threaten re-emergence of the protectionism. Okay, what do you mean by protectionism? Protectionism. See, globalization opposite is protectionism. Okay, it is just opposite terms. Okay, globalization and the protectionism is the these are the opposite terms. Okay, in this way you can easily remember. Now see here, during the economic and the geopolitical crisis, globalization has always taken a hit, as WTO regulation allow governments to practice trade protection measures to preserve the national interest within specific limit. What do you mean by that? See, Indian government can practice a trade protection. Means, for example, Indian government can take measures to preserve the national interest. For example, see, if India and Pakistan, these are the neighboring country, right? India and Pakistan having very huge trades, local trade, local manufacturing, agriculture product, they are having huge. India generally, Pakistan imports the lot of agriculture product like the onions, tomato. These are huge importing from India to Pakistan. Okay, we are exporting to Pakistan. So due to the terrorist activity by Pakistan, India said we will not open for the trade to the Pakistan. Okay, we will have to no, we don't have to deal with the Pakistan in any relation. We don't want to keep. Okay, so due to this, what happened? Why India is doing that? Because we are demanding that terrorist activity must be stopped by Pakistan. Okay, so due to the national interest of India, we are not doing trade with the Pakistan. This is nothing but the practice we are following, called as the that means we are following the protectionism policy. Okay, and what allows WTO have some limitation. WTO cannot say you do free trade. For national interest, it allow government to practice the trade protection. Okay, so I think concept will be clear. So see, basically WTO want what? WTO want there should be free trade. Okay, there, and WTO wants there should be no subsidy given by the government to the anybody. This is basic demand of WTO. Okay, that's why see, due to subsidy, the local product will be available at a cheap rates. Okay, so export will decrease, and the European country will have a big setback due to this. That's why WTO demands free trade. Okay, so everything, whatever that organization is doing is not good for us. WTO is having lot of pressure on the developing countries. For example, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. They are having lot of pressure. They demand you should stop giving the subsidy to the farmers, to other MSME sectors. But India is the country, we should support our farmers, we should support our small industrialists by the way of subsidy, then only we can grow. Okay, but WTO wants stop subsidy, be competitive in the global market. See, recently, you know, the crisis, IMF, what IMF has done. See, Pakistan is now don't have that much of foreign reserve, so they are now begging for the literally they are begging for the grant or the some money or loan from the IMF. So this is the Pakistan, they want some money from IMF. Okay, IMF is the international organization, ready to help, but they will put very much restrictions. Okay, what they are demanding, IMF is now demanding you stop giving the subsidy in the for the Pakistan, you increase the prices of the petrol, you increase the prices of the different commodities. These are the demand which put by IMF on the Pakistan, then only IMF will support to the Pakistan. Okay, so this is not the way that we think that that organization really helping. Okay, so you have to understand the politics apart from the involvement of the country in that organization, and the basic objective of that organization. So it is given here that WTO allow government to practice trade protection for the national interest. Okay, but their basic objective is free trade. Okay, so this is the just idea of globalization. Now see here, the process of reducing the dependency and integration among the particular units throughout the world is called as the deglobalization. So what is protectionism? We learn. Now what is deglobalization? Means reducing the globalization. How? See, reduce the dependency and integration among the particular unit throughout the world is called as the deglobalization. Means basically, see, suppose the India is importing, say, silicon. Okay, or you can say India is depend on the for example, any product like say I will say finished goods of say oil. Okay, so we don't have that much of oil, so we are importing the petroleum product. Okay, so India suppose found some petroleum here in within India, so India will not import the petrol, right, or petroleum oil like that from the Arab countries. So India will be cutting the import from other country, so India will reducing the dependency on integration for that from the world, because India is having lot of oil. So that is called basically deglobalization, means we will not import from you. We, that is, see, in short what I can say, make in India. Make in India is simply best example for deglobalization. We are doing producing within the country, okay, but don't take directly as example. For understanding purpose you take it. Okay, reducing dependency and integration among the particular unit throughout the world is called a deglobalization. Okay, it is commonly used to characterize the historical eras in which economic trade and the investment between the country collapse. Okay, best example is the dispute between the country. Okay, like that. Now see, for example, South Korea and North Korea. Okay, so you know North Korea, Jim Kim Yong, they he is rural in the North Korea, and how he is ruling. Okay, I don't know whether they are doing any trade with the other country or like that, but South Korea is good for their human rights also, and that South Korea is also very much competitive in the different companies are there, they are very much globally active. So South Korea is doing good. Now see, the government enacts the laws that restrict or prohibit the international trade. It is participating in a protectionism, and a protectionist measure frequently attempt to protect the home producer and worker from the foreign competition. So obviously government try to protect their local manufacturer. For example, any person who is manufacturing in India, okay, and he is having some products, for example say soap. Okay, soap. So why government will allow that to import more soap? Government will say, we are having soap producer, let them sell, let them earn, let them be let our GDP increase. Why to import, right? So basically government also want that protectionist policy, but there should be balance, right? So that we will be learning. Okay, so now see, protectionism takes in the three major forms. How the deglobalization or the protectionism takes place: by the way of a tariff, by the way of import quota, or by the way of a non-tariff barrier. Tariff means, see, tariff means we are imposing some tax. See, for example, if you are importing something, we will import some tax on you. Okay, government will import some tax. Import quota means you can import only 20 ton of the say rice. Okay, quota will be sanctioned. Non-tariff barrier means other barrier. For example, we are not allowing the road transfer. We are not allowing the road transfer from Pakistan and India. Okay, if you have to transfer something, import something, you use the railways or other ways like planes. Okay, so these are the non-tariff but barriers. Okay, so these are the way for the protectionism. Now protectionism refer in decline in trade practice, price rises, and the necessity for a provision of the subsidiary for the protected industry. Okay, so if a government want to protect some industry or some trade, then obviously it will result in the decline in the trade. Obviously trade will decline, right? Price will rises, and necessary obviously subsidy government have to give. Now World Trade Organization dispute settlement mechanism is the playing a role in a trade dispute. Okay, now simply WTO is also have the dispute settlement mechanism. Okay, for example, if there is some trade dispute between say India and Afghanistan, okay, or say a big country, okay, don't compare with India with say if India and so other countries say USA have some dispute between that for the trade, then they can go to the dispute settlement mechanism which is of a WTO having. There has been a rise in the populism principle that it would be better of pursuing inward rather than outward looking policy in both economy and the foreign policy. What do you mean by populism principle? Populism principle means basically stay with the mass. Simply in simple word, stay with the masses, stay with mass people. Okay, for example, if I am if I am the Indian person, right? I am the Indian. Okay, in India I know there will be more poor people than the rich. Okay, because simply around 1% wealth is 1% people have more than 90% of the wealth. So we can say India is the rich country by compromising of the poor people. So poor people is the mass in India. So I will if I am the political person, I will raise the voice of the poor people, so I will get popular. So the person or the political scene where mass population, you are connecting with the mass population, is simply the populism principle. Okay, now populism principle, it would be better off pursuing inward rather than outward looking policy in both economic as well as the foreign policy. So that is basically the populism principle. Okay, due to the populism principle, okay, the protectionism also increasing in the country or increasing in the global. For example, say the Donald Trump, what he saying, Donald Trump, he was looking for the, he was the, we can say following the populism. How? See, Donald Trump, what he said, he said first America, America first. Okay, he's in American government said first America or the America first. That means they will prefer the American people first for the jobs other than the Indian or other Asian people. So that means they are following the populism principle to connect the masses in the America. Okay, so these are the way by which protectionism increases, or the deglobalization, simple words. Now see, Michael Sullivan has rightly said in his recent book that the leveling, what is the name of the book? The leveling. The leveling means no rich, poor, rich, they are doing the leveling. Okay, what's next after globalization? Globalization is already behind us. Okay, the name of the book is simply popularly known as the leveling, what next after globalization. Okay, the book name is The Leveling, what next after the globalization. So see here, in the, you have to remember the name of the book and the writer, Michael Sullivan. Now this inward looking sovereign policy, prioritizing the domestic production, offering the package to the enabled domestic companies to increase their scale of cooperation, to increase the investment domestically, promoting a protectionist policy to support the countries from unfair trade competitions from cheaper supplies, clearly demonstrate that the effect of the strategic retreat from the globalization. So basically, how you can identify there is a retreat from the globalization? That means you are planning the strategy to go away from the globalization. How? Simply inward looking sovereign policy. For example, Russia is looking themselves, it is very huge country, right? Very big land they are having, so they are doing the trade within the boundaries. Okay, so we can say there is inward looking policy rather than outward looking. Then prioritizing the domestic production, like Make in India, offering the packages to enable a domestic company, give the package to domestic company, give them subsidy to increase their operation, scale of operation, give them the performance, the production link incentive government has given, right? Increase the investment domestically, FDI, by the way of FDI, or instead of FDI, increase domestic investment domestically. So ask the Indian investor to invest in the Indian company, promoting the protectionist policy, support the countries from the unfair trade competitions. So how to see, give subsidy for the production purpose, give subsidy on the some products, so that our product in the Indian product will be available at a less price and they can compete globally. So okay, these are the some ways, we can say strategy which retreat from the globalization, which are that means we are going away from the globalization, that is deglobalization. Okay, now we'll see what is the summary that this lesson we got. What do you mean by globalization? It is simply the interconnectedness or the interconnectedness of the world's economy. It may be connection between the economy, connection between the culture or the inhabitants. Okay, and how? By the way of a trade of what? Goods and services, technology, investment, people and the knowledge. So this is simply, what is globalization? It is simply interconnection between the two country or two economy or two culture. Okay, now see, proponents of the globalization, that means the who believe in the globalization, they said that they believe that it help in developing countries to catch up the developed ones. Okay, see, there are two type of country: developed country and developing country. Whose are the developed country? Developed country, say USA, these are developed country. Developing means we are developing. Okay, so India is developing country. Okay, so developed means they have developed, developing means we are following development. So India should go and catch the USA. And some proponents of the globalization, they believe by the way of globalization you can catch them. Okay, now the advent of globalization caused significant changes in the Indian economic policy, production and the consumer behavior. Okay, so these are also important things due to the globalization. Changes in the policy or the production and the consumer behavior also changed. Okay, effect of the globalization in India include the per capita income increased, the employment increased, and there will be more option for the customer to purchase the product due to the globalization simply. Now, what do you mean by fair globalization? That also we have discussed. There should be mutual understanding between the different two governments which are in the trade. Okay, and there should be a social cohesion. Okay, these are the key proposition for the fair globalization. Now, for the globalization, how the globalization should be supported? See, local, national, regional or the global level, fair globalization must be there. There should be fair practices followed in the globalization. Then we can say it is a fair globalization. Okay, and that should be supported by the interdependent and mutually reinforcing pillars of the economic development, social development, environmental protection. So basically, what are the factors which support the fair globalization? The process of reducing the dependency and the integration among the particular unit through the world is called as deglobalization. So what is deglobalization? Obviously reducing the dependency on each other country or the reducing the integration. So this is nothing but the deglobalization, just opposite of the globalization. We have discussed how WTO allows to practice the trade protectionism for the national interest of a particular country. What is protectionism? It is due to the protectionism, the result in the decline in the trade. Obviously price will rise and subsidy we have to give. Unprecedented events in the recent year, for example Brexit. Okay, Britain has taken exit from the Brexit, then withdrawal of the US from the US Trans-Pacific Partnership. US has withdrawn from the Trans-Pacific Partnership. US-China trade dispute, result of the COVID pandemic. Okay, and Russia-Ukraine conflict recently. These are the reason which are calling for the deglobalization, or we can say due to this we can again go into the deglobalization, or this is the call for the deglobalization or the call against the call against the globalization. These are the reason call for against globalization. So simply now we will see some questions based on that. Globalization is defined as the dash dash among the nation, whether it is economic integration, political integration, wealth integration or spiritual integration. Globalization means connection between two nations for the economic integration. Okay, so answer will be economic. Easy question. Now see, with which organization popularized the globalization concept in the 1980? Obviously we have learned it is the OECD. Okay, Organization for Economic OECD. Okay, full form OECD, Organization for Economic, and you just go through the full form. Okay, OECD. Okay, let's check in the first slide. It is there, Organization for Economic something, full form is there. So see here, OECD. Okay, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Okay, so OECD stands for Organization for Economic Cooperation and the Development. Okay, so here we are in the second question, right? So OECD is the organization responsible for popularizing the term globalization. Which of the following is not a benefit of a globalization? So technology transfer, political stability, economic development, job creation. Okay, so they are asking which of the following is not a benefit of the globalization. Okay, so technology transfer can happen, economic development can happen, political stability is not the benefit. Job creation is the benefit. Okay, they are asking not a benefit, so obviously answer should be political stability. Okay, there may be some mismatch. Remember here, not answer will be political stability. Which among the following is not a protectionism measure? So increase traffic, it is protectionism. Increase quota, non-traffic barrier, and increase the capital account convertibility. So not a protectionism. Okay, so which answer will be increase the capital accountability. Okay, so increase the tariff is then non-tariff barrier, increase the quota. Okay, apart from that, increase the capital accountability. What is capital account and what is the other account, revenue account? See, capital account means simply this is the account where you can sell property of the government, and the government can get some money. For example, simply capital account is used for, say, privatization. Okay, for government budget I am taking. Okay, so not a protectionism means increase the capital account means more privatization, so it is not supporting the protectionism policy, not supporting the protectionism policy. So answer will be D. Okay, so but here not a benefit of globalization, political stability is not the benefit. Okay, so here you should note the C. So here we come to the end of this session. You should subscribe our YouTube channel. You can download the application Bankers Zone JIB from the Play Store. You can also join the group Telegram. On the Telegram, name of the group is Bankers Zone JIB, which you can directly search on the Telegram, or otherwise you can search in the Telegram at the rate JAIIB then BZ. You search, you will get the group. Happy learning.